Welcome to this episode of The Wisdom of Paramahansa Yogananda, brought to you by Self-Realization Fellowship, where each week you can receive inspiration and guidance from Paramahansa Yogananda's Kriya Yoga teachings. The subject of this episode is You Can Know God in This Life by Brother Anandamoy.
Well, our class tonight is You can know God in this life. Do you believe it? I don't like that laugh. It's amazing to me. Whenever I travel, no matter where it is, here in this country or in Europe or in India or wherever, it is usually that devotees have the attitude, maybe this person or that person can reach the goal, but certainly not I. Now, I tell you, it was during Guruji's lifetime when a woman came on a path. She was 80 years old. And she had not lived before a particularly spiritual life. She was a good woman. And Master said, she will reach the goal in this life because of her great sincerity. Now, is anybody here who is just starting and is 80 years old or older? Would you please raise your hand? Would you please look around because the lights are so blinding that I cannot see further back. Anybody here? 80 or over and just starting? Good for you. Now you see, Master said about that other one, she can make it in this life, so you can also. And all of you can reach the goal in this life. I think one of the reasons why people may be discouraged, I had myself that experience. When I started with the lessons, one after the other came, and I thought, it is incredible, all that information. Not only that, also in the temple services, all that information. Not only that, all those many things that I'm supposed to practice. How in the world can I absorb it all? How in the world can I practice it all? Do you feel that way sometimes? You are not supposed to. You are not meant to practice everything. Because you have to understand, our Guru came with a special dispensation. He came to bring the teaching for the new ages. And because of this, he had to cover every possible aspect of life, every possible aspect of the spiritual life, every possible aspect of practices. But it is mathematically impossible that we can practice everything. We wouldn't have time for anything else. We wouldn't have time to work, we wouldn't have time to sleep, we wouldn't have time to eat or anything else. You are not meant to practice everything. You can't. Master said to us, if you do 1% of what I tell you to do, you will reach the goal. You feel better now? However, we are supposed to practice the essence, and that everybody can do. And what is the essence? First of all, devotion to God and Guru. Second, practice the basic techniques, and that is energization exercises, Hangsa, Om technique, and Kriya. Third, work on right attitude towards yourself and God and Guru, your work, the people you live with, people you come in contact with, all the various experiences, conditions, situations that come into your life. And it also includes do the best you can, living in harmony with the laws of God. Even though the world has turned its back on those laws, we have to live according to them. Now this is the essence. And for that, everybody has time. Make time. Then there is another point. Many devotees are discouraged because they are going along for some time on a spiritual path and everything goes more or less pretty nicely. And all of a sudden, they are hit. All the bad habits, all the material tendencies, all that stuff is coming back, and more things than they ever dreamed. And they think, my Lord, what is happening to me? I am going backward. I am worse off than even before I started. Have you experienced that? Now, I remember one time Dayamadaji gave us a satsang. And she read a talk that she recorded by Master on this very subject. It was in a Gita passage. And then she said, now, you have to understand that every devotee goes through this. Because in the beginning, when we come on a spiritual path, we are so enthused about this big door opening up after having been disgusted or disappointed with all those things that we have experienced in the world, because we felt the world can give us happiness, and it couldn't. And disappointed, somehow, through the grace of God and our good karma, we were led to, most of us, Autobiography of a Yogi, isn't it? And then we thought, this is it. And because of this initial enthusiasm and because of the disappointments in external things, all those bad habits, materialistic tendencies were pushed in the background. And then after some time, the initial enthusiasm wears off and all that stuff comes back again. And we thought it's gone forever. It wasn't gone forever. It was pushed into the background. Those tendencies became dormant. And then they become active again. Now, Dayamaji said to us, when that phase comes, don't be discouraged. Just remember, it is a phase that everybody has to go through, every devotee. This is the famous battle in the Gita. Just keep on to the best of your ability. If it doesn't go well, and possibly it doesn't go well with your techniques and your meditations, just show that you mean business, that you're willing. Do the best you can. And remember, those tendencies, they will be pushed aside. Because every little effort that you make strengthens the spiritual tendencies. And then, Master said, then after a while, you get support from within. He said, the divine general of inner light will come to your aid. And what is that? As we are progressing, as we are practicing, gradually comes an awakening of the spiritual power of the soul. And the more that is roused, you win battle. There is no other way. Because those tendencies, they are not belonging to the self. This is only surface. Remember, the soul, this is what we are. And the soul has always been perfect. It is the eternal, blissful image of God. All right? All right, now I want to go into the subject of meditation because Guruji said that meditation is the highest form of action that man can perform. And without meditation, you cannot reach God. So if the subject is you can realize God in this life, I want to concentrate on that. And this is the center of your spiritual practice, meditation. And I want to go into, I'm not going into all the various points because you have some of them taken up already in the previous classes, but I want to go into some specific ones and show also pitfalls, obstacles, so that you can avoid them and go faster. First of all, I want to give you the basic principle, which you probably all know. I want to review this because it is very important that we keep this in mind. What is the basic principle of meditation? You have read in the autobiography of a yogi, Guruji gives the definition of yoga according to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Yoga is the neutralization or the stilling of the waves of consciousness. As Dayamachi referred to when she was here a couple of days ago, be still and know that I am God. Quoting from the Bible. It is in that absolute stillness that we perceive or we realize what we really are. And then it says in the Yoga Sutras, then the devotee rests in his own pristine nature, soul, or God within. Now, what causes the waves, the motion in our consciousness? It is the action of the soul's instruments. Soul in itself does not act. It is ever calm, ever still. What are those instruments? The body, the muscles, sense organs, the heart, the brain, and so on. What causes those instruments to act? Energy. And now in order to still those instruments, and with that to still the waves in the consciousness, those disturbances, we have to withdraw the energy from the instruments. Bring them inside, into the spine and up into the higher chakras, and there is the perception of God. It is that simple in principle. It is that scientific. And when you once understand this principle, you will see that we are not meditating in order to get experiences, so-called. but the experience of God, eventually. But we do not have that in mind. We have to keep in mind every day, regularly, faithfully, practicing those techniques and meditate. And gradually comes a mastery over the techniques, and they are doing the work. They are withdrawing the energy inward and upward. You do not even have to think about that. The techniques, if you practice them correctly as they are given in the lessons, they do it. This is a basic principle. And I will refer back to this again because you will see how important it is to understand. Now, meditation itself. There's one aspect of preparation for meditation. I wasn't here when the class was given on energization exercises, but I often see that devotees do not see the direct connection between the energization exercises and meditation. You have learned that through those energization exercises you're bringing in energy from outside, isn't it? More so than we actually need for our daily work and so on. There is another aspect, at least as important, directly connected with meditation, and that is to remove local tensions. Because in our stress of life, automatically we are tensing certain body parts, totally unconsciously. And as long as we have local tensions, the energy is locked or blocked in those parts. The energy cannot flow freely through the body. And now, Guruji said, where the energy is, there is your consciousness. It's as simple as that. In our waking consciousness, that energy is flooding throughout the body. And therefore we are body conscious, body identified. Now in meditation, we want to go within. And we cannot go within in consciousness really, as long as that energy is still outside. And if there are local tensions, part of that energy remains in the body and we remain body identified. So the energization exercise is a tremendous preparation to relax the body, to have the energy free, so that with the other techniques you can interiorize. Then, just a quick word about group meditation. If you have the ability, if you have the possibility, if you are living near one of the temples or centers or meditation groups, do take advantage of group meditation. Because Master said, the proximity of other spiritual vibrations has the power of raising your own. It's a combined force. Meditating with other devotees thus helps you to quicken your evolution. And then he said, you will find that many seemingly insuperable barriers in your life will crumble and dissolve. In the waters of meditation, and particularly also in group meditation. You are helping each other without thinking about it. You shouldn't think about it. Otherwise the ego comes in. But combined effort draws more on God. And then also you have to learn to meditate alone. We do this in the ashrams. We have our regular group meditations, and we have our individual meditations. And when you have, and particularly those of you now who are living somewhere far away from a temple or a meditation group, I want to emphasize you are never alone. And I said before, you have to learn to meditate alone. I do not mean this literally. I mean, never meditate alone. There is no better meditation group. You have heard me say this before, huh? There is no better meditation group in the whole world than our line of gurus and you. There is no better meditation group. Only trouble is, delusion tells us they are not here, isn't it? We think Babaji, yes, he is somewhere still in the body, he's somewhere in the Himalayas, and God knows where the other ones are. You know? Now, when you read in the book Only Love by Dayamadaji, you read about she was very reluctant to tell that experience. But the others that were with her, they saw that something very deep, very profound was happening to her. And she had that experience not there but near the Babaji's cave. It was about 80 miles away from it. And Babaji told her, don't think, tell the devotees, they don't have to come here. Why? Those gurus are omnipresent. And you just simply have to convince yourself that this is true. I'll tell you about an experience I had, a rather strange one. It was at a time when Master was out in the desert writing, working on his writings. And that one day I was the only monk out there, and I was doing some work outside. And at noon I went up to the garage roof. There was stairways going up and a little door, and I went up there to meditate. So I sat down, meditated, and after a while I heard something. I heard that little door moving. And because I was the only monk there, I thought, I didn't open my eyes. I thought, Master is here. And immediately I went deeper in meditation. Then after a while, I felt something brushing against my leg. And then I opened my eyes, and I saw it was not Master at all. It was the neighbor's dog. And now, I was kind of stunned. I thought certainly that dog didn't send me in a deeper meditation. And then I thought it over. And I remember Master's words, if you think of the Guru in the beginning of meditation, he will be with you. And I thought, I was absolutely convinced Master is here. And therefore I had tuned in to his omnipresent consciousness. And it was he who had lifted me. And whenever I have practiced that, and I always do that, I feel he is helping me. And so I want you to remember this. Master said deeply meditating disciples should concentrate on their Guru, or meditate with him if possible. It is sufficient for a disciple to think strongly of his Guru before meditation. He will then find his meditation on God to be reinforced by God's power flowing through the direct channel of the Guru. During meditation, the spiritual vibration of a great master silently works on lesser yogis who may be meditating with him or who are in tune with him, regardless of distance. And I have always practiced that. I think deeply before when I start of Master. And I remember after a couple weeks after I was in the ashram and I had done this, One time, we were working at time with Master at the Lake Shrine. And during a lull of work, he said to me, if you keep on like that, you will get there where you want to go. He didn't elaborate, but I knew he meant your attunement with me. So always meditate with the Guru and the Param Gurus. Chanting after the opening prayer, chanting, this is optional, but it is a great help because it is a prayer. Those simple chants, this is a prayer, simple thoughts, repeated over and over again, and they are set to music, and most of them are set to rhythm, and that means the restless mind is tied into that chant. Again and again and again, repetition of going ever deeper in concentration, bringing ever more feeling into it. Not emotions, feeling, devotion. And you will see how that mind, which is restless and has a tendency still to go out, how it is pulled in and directed towards God. But it takes discipline. You know how easy it is to just sing on and the mind is all over the place? That's no good. The saint said, then you are praying to the air and not to God. So it takes discipline, but it works if we are really applying ourselves. And then comes pranayama, energy control through the techniques. And I cannot emphasize to you the importance of those techniques. Practice them, because so many devotees have said to me, well, when I meditate, I just like to sit there and enjoy the peace. Peace is a very, very relative thing. It can be something very passive, seems like daydreaming and gradually slipping off you know where. Sleep. Peace is an aspect of God. And we cannot go into that deep peace unless the energy is withdrawn, consciousness is withdrawn inward to the soul, to God Himself. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is the special dispensation. This is one of the greatest advantages of the New Age, of Dvapara Yoga. Buddha, Christ, could not teach those things because at that time, energy was an unknown thing. Jesus said to His disciples, to you it is given to understand, but to them it is not given. The closest disciples, they knew because they were far along in their spiritual evolution. But the masses did not know. And therefore at that time they had to teach exoteric religion, the outer forms of religion, plus devotion, but not the science. And I have seen in my travels, in Europe particularly, I have seen the torture instruments that devotees have used, and some saints had used, Christian saints. Iron chains with points which cut into the flesh, hair shirts, whips with iron balls. They whipped themselves until their blood was streaming. They denied themselves sleep. They fasted and so on. Brutal methods. Those were the methods in the Dark Ages, because they knew somehow, I have to master the body. I have to conquer the body. Not very effective, those means, when you talk about meditation. The scientific approach is withdraw the energy. Practice the techniques. In the Hindu scriptures it says somewhere, there is no discipline, there is no austerity greater than pranayama. And as you know, pranayama does not mean breathing exercise. It means, even though it is interpreted that way still, this is also a carryover from the Dark Ages. Pranayama means control, mastery over the energy. And if you have mastery over the energy, you have mastery over the various states of consciousness. It's as simple as that. And that is why Master said, you can be in a room for 20 years, trying to get out through the ceiling and through the floor and through the walls. But until you discover the door, you will not be able to leave the room. And so it is with the soul. The average devotee may struggle his whole life, trying to free the soul from the limitations of the body by unscientific means. So Kriya Yoga, remind you, that includes Hangsa and Om and energization exercise. This is a whole system. So Kriya Yoga, however, if he is sincere in his efforts, he can quickly escape through the universal highway of the spine. That is why I say that Kriya Yoga is the highway on which all bypaths of spiritual beliefs meet. Because those techniques withdraw the energy into the spine and up into the higher chakras. The soul has descended into the flesh, has become body identified through descending of the energy. So the same way we have to go back again. And now I refer again to the basic principle. What do we try to do? We are trying to withdraw the energy from the instruments into the inner stillness. As Master said, Hangsa and the other techniques also, they are leading to conscious passivity. Not unconscious passivity. That is sleep. The mind goes off in the subconscious. Conscious passivity. The body becomes still more and more because the energy is withdrawn. The mind is deeply alert, deeply conscious. Now, you know, it is not very interesting perhaps to practice Hangsa. But practice. There's all kinds of things going on when you practice those techniques and you are perhaps not aware of it. You're learning to rechannel, you're creating new patterns of the flow of life force. Most important. And you are burning up karma and you do not notice that. You are burning up karma, past tendencies, through the practice of the techniques. Now, most devotees find that when I practice, let's say Hangsa, that the mind goes off, or practice Om, and mind goes off to something more interesting. A saint said, your senses will chide you, and your mind will chide you, scold you for doing nothing because you are just practicing such a simple technique. And that saint said, you just go on with that nothing because it will lead you to God. But that is why we have to be sincere. I remember the first time when I went to India, it was towards the end of my trip. It was at that time in our ashram in Dakshineswar. And there one of our monks told me, I asked about different places nearby where Master had been, and then he mentioned that temple in Tarakeshwar. You remember that story when Master, as a young boy, went to that temple, and it was a Shiva temple, and he did not bow before the round stone, as he called it. It's a Shiva linga, symbol of the infinite. I said, oh, I would like to go there. And so a member provided a car, and some of us went. And it happened that that day was the day dedicated to Shiva. And hundreds of people were on the roads towards that temple. It was a hot day, blistering roads. And I saw there was hundreds of people, some of them walking, most of them barefoot. Some of them walking 24 hours to go to that temple. Carrying flowers, carrying on bamboo poles, earthen jugs full of Ganges water to bring as offering to God in that temple. And I looked at their faces, and I tell you, they were aglow with anticipation, aglow with devotion. And I thought, those simple devotees do not mind walking those long distances on that hot road, walking to the temple to bring their offering. And we have the techniques. So think of that. I always think of it that way. Concentrate. Keep the mind on what you're doing, on the techniques. Because even though it is not very interesting, it is the road inward to where God and Guru are waiting for us. If I would tell you that Master is somewhere physically right now, manifested in the music room, you will all run there and, isn't it? And you wouldn't go downstairs or going to all kinds of rooms, you would go straight, right? That is what you're doing when you're practicing the techniques. Practice. And that is why Master said intensity of effort is needed. He said people hated meditation because they tense and struggle. And here now I come to one of the greatest obstacles on a spiritual path. People tense and struggle when they practice the techniques, when they meditate. And why do they tense? Have you ever analyzed it? Maybe we are not even conscious of it. We are straining for results. We are straining for experiences. And now I come back to that basic principle. What are we trying to do? We are trying to withdraw the energy and consciousness from the instruments inward to the soul. And if we are straining, what do? We are pushing that energy back into the instruments. And it is absolutely impossible to have an experience of God that way. Oh, we may have experiences, but not God. Experiences of a physical nature or emotions. You know, even astral experience, we have to understand the senses, the mind, the feeling, all these things, these are really part of the astral body. And so a person in meditation, he may have certain lower kinds of astral experiences, but many of them are sensual or emotional or pranic. People get excited over those things and ask, what does it mean? It means it's not God. So, just relax, concentrate, make a relaxed effort, relaxed concentration, relaxed feeling, otherwise it becomes physical emotion, and just keep on. It says in the Gita, you be concerned on right action and not the fruits or the results of those actions. Why? Because if the action is right, automatically, eventually, the right results will come. I want to go a little more into experiences, the subject of experiences. Now, how can you tell if it is a true spiritual experience? It is very simple. First of all, there is profound peace, profound calmness. So much so that it is what Jesus meant when he said, that peace which passeth all understanding. And if you have that, you know that it is greater than anything you have experienced outwardly in the world. It gives an absolute sense of security, an absolute sense of contentment, because you have touched God, or God has touched you. And everything is all right, all desires are wiped out. They come back afterwards, But at that time, that's why a saint said, a true experience, spiritual experience, changes a fool into a sage, because it makes a profound change inwardly. Because it gives you the comparison, what God is and what the world is. A true spiritual experience is always positive. There is no fear, there is no doubt, and particularly there is no excitement. It is profound calmness. Now, that peace, that calmness can be combined with some other aspect of God, such as the light. Not pictures, not movies, the light, the essence, or the sound of Om, or joy, bliss, or love, or wisdom, or Sundara. I say Sundara because beauty doesn't cover it really. It is a combination of beauty and glory. But calmness, peace is always there. And this simply cannot be produced by force. We have to do the work. We have to practice the techniques. And if we practice correctly, in His own good time, God will give it to us. We cannot force it. There is another aspect. The deeper the spiritual experience is, the less there is an inclination to talk about it. When I hear of devotees talking about all kinds of spiritual experiences, I think they really are advertising to those that are understanding that they do not have real deep meditations. They do not have real deep experiences of God, because that is so sacred that one does not talk about it. Just like on a human level, a very intimate experience between husband and wife, one does not talk about that, isn't it? Common decency says so. How much more in our deep personal relationship with God? And Guruji said, if you talk about your experiences, God is very shy. He will withdraw. He will not give it to you anymore. Another point is, even though we are all following this particular path, and this particular teaching, and practicing the same techniques, have the same Guru, still the Guru is leading each individual disciple according to his particular needs. Just like a mother. Mother may have 10 children, she loves them all alike, but she doesn't treat them all the same. Why? She treats each one according to needs. If there's a little thing that has an inferiority complex and so on, she is babying that child and giving candies and giving encouragement and all kinds of things. And another one that is a go-getter and is strong and all that says, okay, he's fine. Right? Same thing with God. So the saints said, and this is not only what Master said, there are different saints who said, there are different religions. It is the weak child that needs all kinds of patting on the back and encouragement through all kinds of consolations. The strong ones, if they have determination and if they say, I'll do it, I make the effort, I love God, and and God says, fine, he's doing just right. He doesn't need all those consolations. Gradually, of course, we are all getting it. When he feels it is right, when we have fulfilled the law, so to speak. And there is another point in this connection. I've talked about this before, but it belongs to this subject, and that is quoting Saint Teresa of Avila. And perhaps you have heard it on a tape. She said, if you meditate and you do not get any results, this is not a loss, it is a great gain, because you are learning unconditional love. It means you are learning to love the giver more than his gifts. And Master said this is the whole key to the mystery of this universe. Whether we love God more than his gifts. If we say, okay, I do this, I practice those techniques, I meditate that much, and then you have to give me this in return, what relationship is that? God wants to see whether we love him unconditionally. Some people have experiences, and sometimes often in sleep, in dreams. As you know, ordinary dreams are subconscious. And they can come from the subconscious, or on a subconscious screen, can be projected a gift from God, a superconscious dream. If it is a true superconscious dream, then the effect is the same. Profound calmness. Profound inner change. And then there are dreams where there is subconscious and there is a superconscious element in it. And then people are writing to us and they describe those things and they say, what does it mean? Does it have a particular meaning? And Guruji answered it this way. He said, if a particular meaning is to be conveyed to you by God, through intuition you will know, you will understand right then when you have that dream or that experience. And if that is not so, then don't try afterwards to interpret it, because the mind is a very imperfect instrument. Then he said, just simply take it as an encouragement from God. Meaning, it's a pat on the back. Keep on, my child. Keep on practicing. Keep on meditating. Keep on practicing the techniques. Not looking for more experiences. Just keep on the road. You'll get there. All right. Now, when we have practiced the techniques, what do we do? That's really when the real meditation begins. Because the going inward is going inward towards God, where He is, or where Master is. And then when we are inside, we may not be fully inside. Then comes communion. Then what do you do? Then people ask, what do I do then? Well, I tell you. In one of the early convocations, when Guruji still was in the body. We had the last function up in Mount Washington on a tennis court. And afterwards, at the end, when everything was over, then the devotees lined up and they went to Master. And he was sitting there in a chair, and they went to him and receiving his blessings or shaking hands with him or whatever. And I liked to watch that. So I stood nearby and watched. And I saw there was a young man who obviously was not a member. I don't know how he got there. He had both of his hands in his pocket, and he approached Master like a zombie. And when he had reached Master, he pulled one of his hands out and, like a lifeless rag, stretched it towards Master. And Master immediately was as if he fell asleep. And Master also pulled his hand out forward, lifeless, like that. And two lifeless hands met. And then the young man walked off, and he looked back. Now, just behind him was a woman, an old-time devotee. And you could just see her whole face, her whole being was just expressing eagerness and total devotion to Master. And Master came alive. You could just see he was just pouring his blessings into that devotee. And the young man saw that, the change in Master, and I watched him, and he went around and he stood in line again. And he came the same way as before, both hands in his pockets, like a zombie. And when he had reached Master, he brought that hand again for me. And Master, the same thing. It was just, and his hand came, and two lifeless hands touched, and then he walked off. Now, I'm sure Master did that for my benefit. And for your benefit, so that I can pass it on. Because I learned a tremendous lesson through that. I thought if we are approaching God in our meditation like a zombie, He reacts just the same. And if we are alert and full of eagerness and full of devotion, God responds likewise. No doubt about it. So, I refer back to Patanjali. He said, when the devotee is not in a deep state of inner centering in the soul consciousness, then his consciousness is identified with the modifications of the mind. He is very clearly, precisely, scientifically classified. And he says, he lists those modifications of the mind, namely sleep, or sense perception, or memory, or imagination. Now, obviously, we shouldn't sleep, right, in meditation? Sense perception, you close the eyes. Don't let noises take the mind out. But then there are the two other culprits. Saint Teresa said that. She said, I locked myself into my cell, wanting to be with God, and I found that I locked within the cell with me 1,000 distractions. And she lists the two, memory, imagination. Remember that, those two. Don't let the mind go into past thoughts, past experiences. Don't let the mind go into imagination, thinking about the future or just daydreaming or thinking about all kinds of things. Hook the mind to some thought. Over and over and over. That is the principle of chanting. You can do it then. You don't have to chant. Just think You are in the presence of God, and now you give your devotion. St. Francis was seen the whole night kneeling and saying, "My God, my God, my God," and he just didn't rattle it off like a parrot. He had his whole mind, his whole feeling centered on that thought, directing it to God. I have seen it in Master. When he was in a devotional ecstasy, he just said, you. And the fervor of that ecstasy, of that devotion, of that concentration was so tremendous that those that were with him, just tears streaming. We couldn't hold it. Such a tremendous vibration of love. And this is what you do in meditation. Feel that you are in the presence of God, and now all devotion, concentration. Do you understand? Now the thing is, in India, when they build a temple, that temple is not a temple until the image is installed. The symbol of the deity, whether that is Krishna or Shiva or Divine Mother or some other aspect of God. And when that image is there, then the temple works. And so same thing with us. We have to install the image, so to speak. If you are thinking, just concentrating at the Christ center, and you think this is a point or this is a center, you have not installed the image of God, and the mind runs off. You have to convince yourself, you have to install the image, you have to think, God is there. You may not see the light, doesn't matter, God is there. If you want to make it more personal, think of it this way. Master said the Guru is always present in the Christ center of his disciples. He is there. Same thing with the Om. It's not just a vibration, it's God. Even if you do not hear it, if you are directing your consciousness inward in that attention and you call mentally Om, Om, you are directing your attention and your love to God in the aspect of Om. And if you feel that God is absent, act as if He were there, because He is. We went to a temple, a Krishna temple, a famous temple in Vrindavan. And there is an image of Krishna, and usually the priest has a curtain in front of the image. And everybody is sitting there or standing there and looking at that curtain, and then the priest pulls the curtain aside, and then everybody says, there is Krishna. And then they come with their flowers and offerings. And then the curtain goes back, and everybody, even though Krishna is not visible anymore, everybody knows behind that curtain is Krishna. He's right there. Same thing in our meditation. If you look here, concentrate here, and nothing, you do not see light, God is there, Master is there, and you give all your devotion. I'll tell you a story. There was a man who heard about an old monk in a Christian monastery, and he heard that he was a very saintly man, so he went to see him, and they talked about various things, and then that man asked him, in all your years as a monk, do you have any regrets? Did you make any mistakes? And the old man said, they call me a Christian, but I have not become Christ. And that man was totally taken aback because he had never heard, of course, about Christ consciousness and that you can become one with Christ consciousness. He thought in terms of becoming the person of Jesus Christ. And he said, well, is it possible? Can one become Christ? And the old monk said, ignoring the question, I put distance between him and myself. In my searching, in my reading, in my prayers. And all those years I was deploring that distance. And I did not realize that I was creating it. There is no distance. And this is one of the greatest obstacles on the path, that we create distance, that we do not accept the fact that God and Guru are omnipresent and with us all the time. In our thoughts, we push them away, we think they're far away. Don't do it. This is something that is one of the greatest helps on a spiritual path. One of the greatest helps in your meditation. That you feel God and Guru are closer than you can imagine. And that is why Dayamachaji said those beautiful words. Guruji is as close to you as you permit him to be. Write that down. He is as close to you as you permit him to be. Don't keep him away. And there is another kind of distance, not just space, just as bad, or worse. And that is to keep God at a distance in relationship to you. And Guru also, a relationship between him and you. Don't create distance. A saint said, there is no creature who can realize how much, how sweetly, and how tenderly God loves you. Write that one down. There is no creature who can know, who can imagine how much, how sweetly and how tenderly God loves you. Now this is something that you have to cultivate, that concept, you have to work on that. Take it home with you and work on it, establish it. Tell yourself over and over again. You know, we usually think in terms of, sure, God will eventually love me when I'm perfect, but certainly not now. This is not true. Master told us again and again, he says, God loves you as much as he loves Christ. It is unconditional. Unconditional. And if once you have established that concept in your mind firmly, your meditations are different. You want to meditate. You want to commune. You want to be in that presence of God. Even if you do not see the light, even if you do not hear the Om, you are going inward with the techniques as much as you can, and then give your love. Over and over. I love you, I love you. Or pray, give me the grace so that I can love you more. And that leads to what Dhyamataji said, deep, unselfish meditation. You're no longer thinking about what is God giving me. Self is transcended. Self is forgotten. There's only God. And that is what Master said. Then you will be able to do that. He said, just lose yourself in love for God. And that is yoga, thinking of God, concentrating on God with all your mind, all your heart, all your feeling. And then it says in the scriptures, you become what you are concentrating on, due to the law of association and concentration. Then gradually emerging comes. So, practice the techniques. They take you inward, and then meditate. And meditation means concentration on God to the exclusion of everything else. It's as simple as that. Just lose yourself in your love for God. And when you do that, you are establishing a relationship which is very sweet, very satisfying. And then you will know you can realize God in this life. God bless.
This has been a production of Self-Realization Fellowship, a non-profit organization founded by Paramahansa Yogananda in 1920. For more information about Self-Realization Fellowship and Paramahansa Yogananda, please visit yogananda.org.